Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 86 F's to Give podcast. I am your host, Al. That is short for Allie, Alex, Alexandra. Some of you probably know me as Allie, some of you know me as Alex, and only really my teachers would call me Alexandra on the first day of school, so you don't have to worry about running that one back. But I am so excited to be starting this. You guys have no idea. This podcast specifically is a 2-year long idea that I have had. Yeah, I came up with this title 2 years ago, and it's taken me this long to have the confidence to start it, which is kind of hypocritical once you find out what this whole podcast is about. But nonetheless, we are here, and I am just so excited. It's going to be an absolute blast, and honestly, it's going to feel like a little therapy session for me. So even if 2 people listen, I will be just having the time of my life, growing and reflecting and sharing my thoughts and ideas here. So this is really for me, and I am so happy if people want to listen along, but I'm really proud of myself and excited to be doing this. So I guess I should introduce myself just a little bit for anyone that stumbles across this that doesn't already know me. Like I said, I'm Al. I am a 25-year-old that lives in Philly, and I grew up in Delco, Delaware County. If you know Delco or you're from Delco, you know it is a very special place, and we take our Delco pride very seriously. But yeah, I feel like I've been through so many things and I've seen a lot in my short 25 years, and I'm just really, really excited to have somewhere to talk about them and document it. And before we even get started further along, I wanted to give just a little disclaimer that I am obviously sharing my personal experiences and opinions and beliefs and ideas and feelings on whatever topic that I talk about each week. And I would love if you would happily take whatever resonates with you and enjoy it and share it, but just peacefully leave what doesn't. I obviously know that not everything everyone says resonates with everyone, but I'm just not a fan of being rude or judgmental about things that don't resonate with you. So that being said, I would love to now explain kind of the whole concept and title of this podcast. The title of the podcast itself is 86 F's to Give, and this is a reference to the food industry or restaurant business. I worked in a country club's food industry or restaurant for almost 8-9 years. I was like 15, almost 16. Maybe I was 16 when I started, and then worked up until I was 24, 23. So I guess like 6 or 7 years. I can't do math that fast in my head. But I absolutely had the time of my life working there. I will share a little bit more about my experience there in a second. But basically in the food industry, when the kitchen runs out of an ingredient or a special or something that's on the menu, they yell out 86 blank, so whatever they've run out of. So say they run out of the salmon special, the kitchen will yell 86 salmon, and that will get relayed to the managers and the servers and anyone that's out on the floor to now let any customer know that if they order the salmon, sorry, we're out of salmon, we have to pick something else for you tonight. And that's kind of just like the lingo that they use back in the kitchen. And I am taking that and putting it towards running out of F's to give about what people think about me or what I'm doing or my life or really anything that affects me at all. And I honestly came up with this idea like 2 years ago in the shower when I asked my dad to make me peanut butter and jelly real fast when I was leaving for work, and he yelled up from the kitchen, 86 peanut butter, like what else do you want? And I don't know how it popped into my head, but I was just going through like how funny it would be to like be a project title with 86 something, and that's how we landed here. And this is a little bit hypocritical of me, but it's taken me 2 years to feel confident and motivated and sure of myself enough to actually start it, which is hypocritical because this whole podcast is about not caring what people think, but we are finally here and I am so excited. So how this whole entire podcast is going to work is that each week I'm going to be talking about something new that we are 86ing, aka letting go of, aka running out of, and how we're doing that, how we're going about doing that, why we're doing that, the importance of doing that. So that can range anywhere from, something funny like 86 situationships or 86 honking the second the light turns green, because that is a pet peeve of mine, or, more serious topics like 86 jealousy or comparison or things like that. So we're going to dive into all the things that we are trying to let go of, that I'm trying to get let go of. And I would also love if you guys would comment or DM me on socials. All of that is in the description, and if you're on YouTube, I can maybe put it on the screen, but it's all in the description of where you can find us on socials to comment or DM us any topics that you want me to talk about and things that you're trying to let go of. I would absolutely love if you guys would do that, because I want this to be as collaborative as possible. So yeah, that's how this is going to work. I want to circle back to my time working in the food industry, because it's been a few years, but I still think so highly of my experience. I talk about it all the time. Those that are like really close to me that I've met even post working there know that I've worked there, because I just talk about so many funny stories and experiences that I've had. I went from being a busser when I was 16 all the way to being a server when I was 23. So I really went through all of the different jobs and positions there, front desk, server, hostess, food runner, event staff, all the things. And I really loved my managers and my coworkers. And like I said, it was all through high school and college and even post-college. So it was some of the most formative years in my life. And it was such a huge chunk of time in my life that I literally grew up there. And so much of who I am and my personality and my identity was discovered while I was working there. So I love that this is a nod to that, because that was such an important time in my life. But yeah, I learned things like how to receive feedback and how to communicate and, deal with difficult customers and things like that. But I also had life-changing experiences that, I had to stand up for what I believed in. And about an event one time that was just something was just not right, and it needed to be called out, and that was really challenging as a teenager to stand up for things that I believe in. And I also discovered my sexuality. I had my first crush on a girl while I was working there. So it was just a lot of things that I've learned about myself and just the world and how to interact and the energy that I want to exude into the world. So I, again, love that this is a reference to that in my time there. With all that being said, now that I've explained who I am, the podcast a little bit, I would love to get into today's episode, which is 86 Caring What People Think. Obviously, that's kind of the whole theme of the episode, or the whole podcast itself. But I wanted to start off with that one because it is the whole purpose of even starting this podcast for me. So we're going to hop into it. I have a couple bullet points on my notes here, but I'm just kind of gonna let it flow. I feel really passionate about this, so I have a lot to say, so stick with me. But if you're anything like me, you probably have a notes app in your phone of things that ideas that you have or goals that you want to achieve and things like that. And they've been sitting there for years, because that was me with this podcast. And I really looked through my notes and I was like, these are all incredible ideas, not to toot my own horn, but just things that I'd be really passionate about doing. And it's like, why haven't I even attempted to do them? I haven't even picked up a pencil. I haven't even tried to do them. And it's like, why? And I realized I was just genuinely too scared of people judging me. And it's like, really? Girl, we're gonna give people that much power? And, I've come to realize that either way, people are either gonna not care at all, or they're gonna care and they're gonna talk crap to their friends, and you're not gonna know either way. You'll have no idea how people feel unless they're commenting mean things, and at that point, you just kind of have to brush that off your shoulders, because people are just gonna be rude, even though I cannot fathom commenting a negative thing on someone's personal social media or even their public social media. I don't understand, but that's neither here nor there. We can talk about that in another episode. 86 commenting mean things on people's social media. Stay tuned. But really none of that matters, because I've finally, you're finally doing something that you've been wanting to do and crossing off something off your goal list. And that is what is the important thing here. And I want to kind of explain the whole like art that is the difference between saying like, oh, I don't care what people think anymore, and actually caring so much about yourself and your own personal growth that you don't have even an ounce of care or F's to give about what other people think. So it's different. It's not, oh, I just don't care anymore. It's no, I care so much about myself that I couldn't even possibly give someone else that's being negative the time of day. And that is what I want to really hone in on this episode, because that is where people are going to be able to push past people being negative, or, you know, the fears or the anxieties of people thinking, oh, whatever project or whatever you're working on is terrible and people are going to hate it and judge you. Like, even if that happens, I don't care, because I can't. I simply don't have any cares left in me, because I care so much about me and my self-worth and my growth and my journey and my self-reflection. And that's literally like an art. Like, I call it an art because it is. Like, it's not just something that you can wake up and do. And that's going to be a theme with all the topics we talk about here. Like, none of these things we're going to just 86 and be actually out of them. Like, it's something that's a journey, and we're going to have to work towards. Like I said, I'm not going to wake up tomorrow and be like, oh, I just do not care what people think. Like, I'm sure when this episode goes out, I'm going to be like pooping my pants, because it's nerve-wracking to share your art and share your voice and things that you're that you're saying and your passions. It's scary. Like, people are mean online, so it's valid to have those fears. But it's the fact that we're able to do it anyway. And that's the whole point, right? I also wanted to talk about an internal battle that I sometimes have. Well, I have all the time with like sharing my art and things online. Is that on one hand, I'm like, oh, no one cares. Like, no one cares enough to judge me or talk crap or anything. So like, who cares? Do it. Like, no one cares. And then on the other hand, I'm like, but no one cares. Like, is anyone going to listen or watch or like support me? And I'm trying to land somewhere in the middle of that spectrum and be like, okay, yeah, people probably won't care enough to talk crap, but even if they do, there are people that care so much about me and do support me and love me that like I will be okay if people do, you know, talk crap or are mean. And that's where I want to kind of land on that spectrum, is somewhere in the middle. Like, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. It doesn't have to be no one cares, so I'm just going to do it. Or no one cares, so like I'm not going to do it because why would anyone listen? Like, it doesn't have to be either of those. Both of those can exist, you know? And that's what the goal is for me personally, is to kind of land in the middle of that spectrum and just realize that, you know, the people that, this is a quote that I'm probably going to butcher, but the ones that matter don't mind, and the ones that mind don't matter. I might have said that backwards, but you know what I mean. Like, the people that care about you, they'll love it and they're going to support you, but the people that are talking crap, they're the ones that don't matter at all. Like, they're the ones whose opinions literally don't matter at all. Like, if you wouldn't go and ask this person for advice on something that's really, you know, hard, or something that you're going through, or something that's just like in your life, like, then hearing their opinions on your art or whatever, like the little silly things that you share online or whatever your goals are, then it doesn't matter on that either. Like, if I'm not asking you for serious life advice, then I'm also not asking you to, you know, review my podcast. Like, that person's opinions actually just don't matter. Like, and I'm not to say like I don't value people giving honest feedback and constructive criticism, because of course, like, we're always going to receive feedback in our lives, but I'm talking about things that people don't need to be giving feedback on. Like, if I'm just sharing something that I care about and something that I'm passionate about, and it's not my boss, like, it doesn't affect my work or anything like that, like, I don't really need your feedback, you know? Like, just keep it to yourself, especially if it's negative. And I'm doing all this because I've let these fears that I come up with in my head that may or may not even be true, and we'll circle back to that. But I'm giving people so much power based off of these fake made up scenarios in my head of like what I think they're going to think. And this reminded me of a quote that Jay Shetty shared on his book tour. My roommates and I went to see him live a few months back, and he shared a quote. It's not his quote, but I don't know who said it, but he shared a quote about kind of like how you're never living in reality if you give people so much power over like how you feel about yourself. And the quote goes, I'm not what I think I am. I'm not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am. I'm going to run that back because I might have said it too fast. I'm not what I think I am, and I'm not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am. So, for example, if I know, oh, this teacher thinks I'm really smart in this class, so I feel smart around them. Like, I go into class, I'm like, oh, I know this teacher loves me. I feel smart. I'm going to do the dang thing. Like, you feel confident, you feel smart. But if you go into a classroom and you're like, oh, this teacher thinks I'm an idiot and that I don't know anything, like, you allow yourself to feel like an idiot and that you're like dumb and don't know anything. And when you do that, and it can also go positive, like, okay, people think I'm, my parents think I'm pretty, so around my parents I think I'm the most beautiful girl in the world, right? Like, it can go both positive and negative, but if you're allowing people to have that much effect over what you think of yourself, then you're never living in your actual reality of what you actually are, right? Like, if I'm allowing somebody to make me feel like an idiot every time I walk into this classroom, then I'm allowing this person to change the reality and the perception that I have of myself. And that's just like bonkers when you say it out loud. You're like, wait, I actually think I'm pretty smart. Like, maybe this specific subject is tough for me, but I know I'm a smart person. Like, why am I giving this person so much power over how I feel about myself? It all comes down to the fact that we're actually assuming things about what people think of us, because very, very rarely people are actually coming up to you and being like, hey, Al, you're an idiot. Or, hey, Al, your podcast sucks. Like, no one is doing that. Like, and yes, strangers online might comment that, but like I said earlier, like, those are the people that opinions don't matter, like, at all. So if somebody that you genuinely care about and genuinely respect their opinion is giving you feedback, like, they're never like, oh, no, this sucked. Like, I mean, if they are in your life, then maybe you need to reevaluate whose opinions you actually value. But I'm just like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm so scared to post like a little silly reel on my Instagram. And then when I finally do, everyone's like, oh my God, I love this. You're so cool. Like, this is so cool to share this, like all this stuff. And I'm like, why was I so scared? Like, no one has ever come up to me and been like, that kind of stinks. Like, no one's doing that. So it's all assumptions that we're making about what people think of us. And I know it's probably like human nature to assume the negative, right? Like, I'm assuming that, this person's probably going to listen to this episode and think like, oh, who does Allie think she is? Like, making a podcast, like, there's thousands of podcasts out there. Like, I could let myself think that everyone's thinking that, right? But again, I'm assuming. So why would I not assume something that's going to bring me peace, right? Instead of assuming, oh, everyone thinks your podcast sucks, I'm just going to tell myself everyone is loving every single second of it. They're eating it up, because neither could be true, right? Like, I don't know which one is true. I don't know. Some people, it's probably both are true, right? Probably some people are like, not going to listen to that again. And some other people are probably like, oh, wow, this is really cool. Like, whatever it is. And instead of allowing myself to assume the negative and spiral and dwell in that, I'm going to just choose to assume something that brings me peace. And this goes along with a little tidbit that my mother has taught me, and probably several of her clients, because she is a therapist, one of the best. And if you know my mom, she is just like an angel on this earth. Both of my parents are, and I've learned so much from both of them. So if you have the pleasure of knowing them, you know what I'm talking about. But my mom has always told my family and I to tell yourself a different story. And that goes along with the assuming. Like, instead of assuming the negative, let's tell ourselves a different story of like why somebody would be acting like this, or why this is happening, or just tell yourself a more positive story. So for example, like, say you are at work and somebody is having like an interaction with you that is completely different than how you guys normally interact, and you're like, oh no, like, did I do something? Like, I must have said something, or I don't know, like, this person seems like they hate me all of a sudden. Like, I'm just making all these negative assumptions about something that I did. And it's like, or that I'm the reason that they're acting like this. And instead, you could tell yourself like, hey, maybe this person woke up and had really bad news waiting for them in their phone when they woke up. and they're just doing their best to be here today. And, maybe being a little short or not as excited to see you or not even saying hi or forgetting to hold the door is their best today. And, if it becomes a pattern and they, then that's something to really dive into and be like, hey, like, are you okay? Like, but most of the time people are just going through their own stuff and it really has nothing to do with you or something that you did. And if it does, like I said, like, have a conversation about it, and that's something that you can, unpack with them. But most of the time, telling yourself a different story is helping you. It's like forgiveness. It's like, the only one that's struggling when you hold on to a grudge is you, right? Like, the only one that's like not benefiting from me making these assumptions is me. Like, if I'm making negative assumptions, I'm the one that's now hurt and thinking that this person hates me, when really they're just going about their day trying to do their best because they found out some sad news, or they're just really tired, or whatever it may be. So, I do this in all different scenarios of my life. Like, my mom and I sometimes come up with ridiculous stories to tell ourselves that, will make us laugh, and honestly it becomes like an inside joke, and it just ends up being a funny story. And like, that genuinely helps you get through, that anxiety or those fears of like, oh gosh, like this person hates me, or they think I'm terrible, or they think my art sucks, or whatever. And it's like, no, maybe they're just going through it. And that also leads me to think about like how a lot of times, and this is probably human nature too, like it's just natural for us to be a little selfish in the fact of like assuming or thinking that somebody's acting a certain way because of me. Like, we make it all about ourselves. And it's like, how could they treat me like this? Why did I must have done something? Or why are they treating me like this? Or they're doing this to me and they're making me feel terrible. And it's like, really, it's not about you at all. Most of the time, it probably has nothing to do with you. And I mean, we all do it, right? We all make these assumptions and get ourselves worked up about things. And then you have that conversation with somebody and it's like, oh, it actually had nothing to do with me at all. And I was just, making up these situations in my head. And again, it's like anxiety and your brain doing this. Like, we all do it. Our brains, a lot of our brains all work the same way, and where we assume negative things and, make up situations that cause us more anxiety. But in those moments, it's helpful, tell yourself a different story, and then to remind yourself, like, it actually probably has nothing to do with me, and it's not something that I need to be taking personally right now until they communicate that to me. And that's something that's really helped me as well, is like just calling yourself out for being a little selfish. It's like, why are you assuming that everything is about you and everything has to do with you? And, I think one of my growth opportunities is not taking things so personally. And I've been working on that for ever, years and years and years. And it's so hard, but telling yourself like, hey, this isn't even about you. It's about something bigger. It's about making sure that, if somebody's giving you feedback, it's about making sure the outcome and the end product is something presentable and something we're proud of. And it actually has nothing to do with you, or that, they don't think your ideas are stupid or whatever. They just have expectations and things that need to be followed and things like that. So that's something that I've been really working on and trying to remember, is that like, it's not all about me. Let me tell myself a different story to help me get through this. And that always, like, just telling yourself a different story and, reminding yourself that it's not all about you is, it like removes you from the situation. You're able to look at it from an outside perspective and be like, oh, like, this person is probably feeling this and this, or going through this, and that's why maybe they're acting a little differently, or that's why they're making me feel like they're mad at me when really they're not. I say all of that, and I hope that all makes sense, because those are tidbits that my mother has shared, and I practically use them on a daily at this point, because it's like ingrained in me to think that way. And I'm just so grateful for all the things that she's taught me. And I promise we will be circling back to more Yolanda tidbits, because like I said, she's a therapist and she just has all the best little quotes and things that you can just hold on and use on the daily to kind of help yourself through anxious moments and things like that. So these are little tips of how I am working through caring less about what people think. And like I said, the moral of the story is that the only one that's like not benefiting from you caring so much about what people think is you. Like, you're the one that's not reaping the benefits of going after your goals and sharing what you want to share and saying what you want to say. The other people are just for all we know, not even saying anything rude, but they're the ones that are, just out there not going after their goals. And it's not in a comparing way. It's just like, if people have time to be sitting online and scrolling and commenting negative things or saying negative things or sending your posts into, their other friends' group chats and being like, remember this girl from high school? Like, they have bigger fish to fry. And it's like, obviously we all do it and we all see stuff and we're like, oh wow, like, we all gossip and we all talk about things that are going on, and I am no better than anyone else. But if that's really like your sole purpose of being on social media and it's just to, comment on people's things and judge people and be mean, like, really those people need to take a minute and self-reflect, and it has nothing to do with you, like we mentioned before. So those are all my little tidbits on not caring what people think. I hope this all made sense, like I said. And this was just episode 1, so it might have been a little all over the place, but I am so excited to keep doing this. I have so many ideas and topics I want to talk about. But again, please go follow the 86Fs to Give Instagram. It's just at 86Fs to Give. And the same on TikTok. And I will also be posting these on YouTube if you're interested in watching these instead of listening just audio. But yeah, I would love to hear what people think. I think you can comment on things on Spotify now, so feel free to comment, or on YouTube or on Instagram, wherever you feel inclined to comment. And DM me. I want this to be collaborative. I want to hear your guys' thoughts. But I'm so excited. I posted for the first time on the podcast Instagram yesterday, and I got so much love and just like awesome feedback, and people seem to be excited, like, in my life. And so I'm excited for you guys to listen to this. And yeah, I hope that people come back each Thursday to listen. It's going to come out every Thursday at 11 a.m. And yeah, if no one's told you today, I love you and I'm proud of you. And remember to 86 your cares for what people think about you, because really, it's not about you.